Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Paul Speight. I'm a watch manager with Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. Just a quick history about myself. I've been in the fire service 28 years, so I've got 24 months before I retire. And people ask me, why are the fire service getting involved in virtual reality and 360 filming? And what I'm going to do, I'll just take you through a story where we started, where we're at the moment, and where we're going to be, hopefully, in the next 6 to 12 months. So the journey so far, we started 2012, 2013. I was given the reference for fire investigation and road safety. As you can see, both references don't really sit hand in hand. Fire investigation, although it's a big part of my job, it was very ad hoc. We needed a fire for me to go out. Road safety was my main focus and took up a lot of my work. So what we did, I made contact with our local road safety partnership and looked for some funding to start some projects. Our first project was the VF4, which is the Virtual Fatal 4. This was a car which we turned into a crash simulator. It was the first time where we isolated 4 students away from their kind of peer group, put them in a car, all the windows are blacked out, and they watch a road safety film. The car's got hydraulics added, so we can move the car up and down, backwards and forwards, side to side, so they get kind of a virtual ride in the safety of kind of a static car, which crashes in the end. We fill the car with smoke, blue flashing lights. They go into the rescue stage, and the students come out and re-engage with them again. That was our first attempt at virtual training and education. From then on, we kind of, the film, after about 3 years, it was a bit old hat, so I looked to change it. So I needed an idea. And I racked my brains thinking, what can I do? Something different. And I kept thinking, what is there out there which will make the car different and make our engagement tools to engage with students, to make them safer drivers, kind of more engaging. So I came up with an idea, and it was to make a new film, but in 360. So I got the idea. Those of people who know me, when I get an idea, I am very, very kind of forceful. I've got to make it happen straight away. I can't sit and wait for people to say, yes, here's your bid. You've got to wait 6 months to get the money. So I kind of had to keep calm because I'm like a kid in the candy shop. You know, I've gone running around, kind of need this, I want this. So I made my bid. I submitted my bid, and I asked for some money. And they kind of said, yes, you can have your money. I asked for about £14,000. And the road safety partnership come back and said, yeah, there you go. So I was really, really happy. Then I realised, because I hadn't done this process before, that I hadn't got enough money. I didn't realise what a 360 film would cost. So what I did, I went back and said, please can I have some more money? And they obliged, and they gave me £30,000. And I'm sat there thinking, 30 grand, you know, what am I going to do with this? So what I did, the bid was successful. I contacted a chap called James Evans at First Car. And if you ever kind of pass your driving test in the last 2 or 3 years, you'll get one of his magazines. And so what I wanted to do is make a new film. So James had dabbled in kind of making films, and we got a good working relationship with him. So I said to him, look, this is my idea. I want to make a 360 film. Instead of the car film, a normal 2D, I want to do a 360. And he said, okay, give me a couple of weeks. He's got back to me. And he kind of said, well, he's got in touch with a couple of specialists. And they've come up with an idea saying, yes, we can do this. So we went, okay, 2015, I've got the money, I've got the company who can make the film, I've got the specialists who can make the film happen. So 2015, I went into Leicester, into one of the gadget shops, and bought a headset. It was a very cheap headset. The phone didn't fit in. I had to tape it in elastic bands, as you can see. It wasn't the best, but I saw the massive potential it had got. And with the kind of target group we're aiming at, like 16 to 24-year-olds, we need to have that catch, that bait. Virtual reality is the type of thing they're using now on their PlayStations and that. So this was kind of ideal. So kind of I looked at it, thought, it works, see the potential. So we come up with the idea, the Virtual Fatal 4 360. And the idea was born, and we went out and got some better kit. The only reason we used the Gear VR was I went to Samsung and they sponsored me. You know, they gave me about £8,000 worth of kit. They'd seen the film we'd made, and they thought, wow, they want to invest in this. And we've got quite a good relationship with Samsung at the moment, and they keep in touch with me, because every time they go on onto the internet and that, they keep coming across this film we produced, and they keep emailing me saying it's out there. What I needed from the film company was a technical drawing, how we're going to fit a tripod and a camera into a car, because you're going to be the front seat passenger of this film. And I was waiting anxiously for this company to send this film, this kind of picture to me. And when it came, I looked at it and thought, no, hang on, that's not it. No, that's not it. This is what they sent me. This was from the technical experts. This is what they sent. And I'm looking at it thinking, we're employing experts, and this is a kid's drawing. But then when I looked at it from a practical point of view, I thought, well, actual fact, I know exactly what they mean. We can make that happen. So I went to our workshop, said, look, this is what I want to happen. And a couple of hours, they made it happen. So I've gone from expecting a real technical drawing to a handwritten kid's drawing, but it did what it meant to do. That's what it looked like when it was set up. And again, like I said, these are 360 experts. As you can see, we've got duct tape, we've got elastic bands holding the stuff together, and again, I'm thinking to myself, is this going to work? This car is parked outside a cafe in Leicester, and the looks people gave when they walked past. And if you get the chance to come to our stand, L15, come and have a look at the film. It's totally immersive. It is very, very good. So that was the camera setup. The hardware, we had to get all the hardware there to make it look as real as possible. We got makeup artists, fire engine, ambulance, tractor, dead easy. I know the farmer, so he helped us out. If I can't get a fire engine there, then what chance have I got in the fire service? The ambulance and police are great. Police helicopter, they said they might come, they might not come, depends on how busy they are. And on the day, the helicopter was flying over, and I thought they'd just come to have a look, and then my phone rang. So I've picked my phone up, and it's the co-pilot saying, where do you want us to land? And I'm like, hang on a minute, this isn't real, this isn't. But they landed in the field in front, and it's all videoed, and it looks really, really spectacular. That's the cruise, because what we've done within the film is, as you know, with 360 filming, it's very difficult to edit, because not like 2D, if you edit just a flat screen, a lot of people won't pick up on the edit, but with 360, if you change something in front of you, you change the whole environment. And what we wanted to do is keep it as realistic as possible. And so if people are picking up the change in the environment, you lose that realism. So what we've done, we've come up with quite an ingenious way. Within the film, what we do is we make you pass out, so your vision goes blurred, kind of you hear a bit of ringing in your ears, you pass out, fades to black, 2 or 3 seconds later, your vision comes back blurred, then it's sharp. But in reality, that may have been a couple of hours for us to get ready for the next take. And this is just a crew getting ready, cutting basically the A-posts. As you see, the last scene, they take the roof off. So what they've done, they've cut all the posts previous, so it happens like quite quickly. One thing we didn't take into account was how long it would take to film. And as you can see, it was getting quite dark. The helicopter took off and said it'll do a couple of circuits, then they're gone. And what they did, which makes it look really, really fantastic, is they put the spotlight on the scene. And of course, if everyone's wearing high-vis clothing, and the person in the back's got a kind of foil blanket on to keep them warm, it all's lit up and illuminated by this helicopter spotlight, and it makes it look really, really atmospheric. Plus the blue lights at night kind of take on a life on their own. So it was very, very realistic. To the extent that the road we used, although it was closed off, there's a few properties further down, and one of the properties got a swimming pool. And she had got swimming lessons later that day, and I said, we'll be finished by 4 o'clock. This is about 6:30 at night. And people going for swimming lessons were stopping, because they see all the blue lights, turning around and going home, ringing her up, saying, there's been a serious accident, we can't get through. Of course, the woman rings me up and gives me an earful, because these are paying kind of students for lessons. And I've basically said, look, we did say, tell them to drive up to the scene, and we'll let them through, but she hadn't passed that information on, unfortunately. This is at the launch. This is Leicester High School for Girls. They sent a minibus through of guinea pigs to try the video. It's just a picture. I've got a video, and in the video, they all say how good this is. They say it's absolutely fantastic. Trust me, that's what they said. You know, I would have showed the video, but I didn't load it up. But it was great to listen to it from their age group perspective. The video itself, it's won 2 awards. I think to me the important one is the Excellence in Fire and Emergency, the Innovation of the Year. They won that last year, which is kind of really good. We're proud of that. That's just some of the places it's being used in the UK. The 2 on the left there, I'm not really sure what they're doing over there, but the ones at the bottom, that's New Jersey, Guernsey. It's being used down there. It's been used in a lot of other places in the UK. Most UK fire services using it. You've got police forces, local authority, road safety officers. And from there, it's gone global. It's been used all over the world. We do not charge for this film. If you want this film, it's free. Because the way we look at it as a fire service, it's there as an education. It's there to save lives. So we make it available free of charge. You know, because you have to buy the hardware to watch it. So then 2016, kind of, that should say, sorry, my references changed. From fire investigation, they took that off me and gave me virtual reality. So now my reference is road safety and virtual reality. That shows the importance Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service put on virtual reality and where it may lead to. Because fire investigation is a major part of my work. And if you looked in the news in the last 2 weeks, we had the explosion in Leicester. You know, that's taken 3 fire investigations, 2 weeks on that scene. I would have been there if they hadn't changed my reference. So it shows the importance we're putting on virtual reality. Then we jumped to the emergency services show. We were demonstrating all our kit, which is really, really good. And then Alex, he's not in here, from a company called Infinite Pixel come along. They looked at what we were doing with our headsets and said, you can see you're setting them off all individually. How would you fancy doing it by a push of a button and set them all off together? I went, well, brilliant, because it just saves us time. And so I paid him a visit in Southam, Warwickshire, and not sure what I've said. Then we formed a partnership. That's Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service and RiVR, Reality and Virtual Reality. We formed a partnership with them. Let's get rid of that. The slides have all gone a little bit funny, unfortunately. We formed a partnership with them, and they showed me a couple of things using the Vive, the HTC Vive, and I saw straight away the advantages where we can use for our fire investigation training. And the beauty of what RiVR do, they use photogrammetry, so you get photorealism. And when we're doing our training, the last thing we want is it to be like computer-generated images. We have got a system we use at the moment, and I have to reaccreditate as an officer to ride in front of a fire engine every year. And I sit on this game station, basically, with a joystick, moving around, an avatar around a screen, putting out a make-believe fire. It's not very real, it's gameplay, and they tend to get gameplay results. We want photorealism, so when you go start to train, it's real. So you stay focused, you stay kind of motivated, you stay kind of sharp because it's real. You're not gone into that gameplay mode. We've taken the concept on tour around the UK to all the fire services. This is down in Kent. As you can see, this is early days because you can see the cable going from the chap in the middle who's having a go. The first thing I saw from a firefighter side was the cable. And I know in the fire service, health and safety wise, the first thing people will see is not the potential of the VR, but the trip hazard. So I said, we need to take the trip hazard out because people will focus on the wrong thing. So they've got the backpack now, so there's no trip hazard. The chief exec of Kent and Millington absolutely loves this. She's now taken it under her wing from the National Fire Chiefs Council. So it's blended learning and workforce development. Virtual reality is in there now with Leicestershire Fire and Rescue as the lead. My boss is the national lead, and I kind of go out there and I just make it happen. There's the backpack. It frees you up to walk around your kind of your zone. Those who haven't had a go, it works very, very simple. You have 2 lighthouses with sensors on. It gives you a safe zone to walk around in, no trip hazards. If we set it up on this stage, I'd be quite happy to put the headset up, walk around, and I know I would not fall off the side of the stage because the sensors would put a grid up in front of me, so that doesn't happen. They've added a second screen to the back. So if I'd got a crew on station and I was training them, I could follow them around, watching what they're doing. I could give them advice, I could give them encouragement, or I could just watch if I'm accrediting and seeing what they're doing and monitoring it. There is a third screen option, so I can sit in the office and do it on a laptop, which would be my preferred option. So I could sit there with a cup of tea and watch them, and we could talk through comms. They've used a system called 4D modeling. And what they've done, 4D modeling, it's basically a setup with 160 cameras. And what we've done, we put the firefighter in full breathing apparatus on the X in the middle, and these 156 or 160 cameras take a photo, and they basically build up a 4D model of the firefighter. If you put the headset on and walk around this firefighter, it's like me walking around any of you. The quality and the clarity is absolutely 100% spot on. And in the virtual world, again, what we want realism. So if the people look real, although they're not, you can trick the mind. Is what they've done, they put trackers on the eyes. So when you walk past the virtual person, his eyes follow you. If you walk back, they follow you. If you duck down, they're looking down at you. So they're making the virtual person as real as possible. The thing they're looking at the moment is making the chest rise and fall as though they're breathing. So what we're staying with our core principle, which is to be photorealistic. And that's what we want to happen. Because the more realistic, the better the training. Within the training, we took fire investigation as a proof of concept. One, because it demonstrates the versatility of virtual reality and the interactiveness of it. I know from being a fire investigation officer the type of things I want to do, and virtuality gives us that opportunity. And, oh, there you go. See the eyes following you? Brilliant, thank you. So it gives us that versatility. Anything you can do in the virtual world, if, for instance, we've put a box of matches, a burnt box of matches. If I'm going to investigate, to me that's got evidential value. So you can pick it up with one hand, with your controller, you can pick an evidence bag up with the other and put the matches into that evidence bag. For me, kind of fire investigation training, 60% is simulated, 20% is professional discussion, and then 20% is on-the-job training. So your 60% simulation, it is made for VR. Your 20% professional discussion, when you put something in an evidence bag, it goes to the white room. That's the video as well. This is just showing the white room. The white room, basically what you get, anything which goes in the white room goes on the table. You have the ability to have it hovering in front of you. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can spin it round, you can point out to your examiner or trainer burn patterns, why you've selected it. If you want, you can actually walk around it, and you can say to your examiner or your trainer, okay, I've had a look at it, second thoughts, I don't think it's got any evidential value, I'm going to bin it or I'm going to keep it. And your examiner will say, okay, yeah, move on to the next item. So there's your professional discussion. So that's 80% of your training done. And then we're looking at fire scenes for the final 20%. Where we stand at the moment with the NFCC, the National Fire Chiefs Council, we had a meeting early this year, and I addressed the chiefs, and we've got 26 fire services now in the UK wanting to buy in and be part of a collaborative working, a collaborative funding to produce virtual reality training environments for the fire service. We've got the police are looking, they're very interested. The fire investigation, we've got scenes of crime officers who want to work together because the environments are ready made for training. Oh, the training itself is basically, virtual reality will give us eventually a cost saving. That's what it's about. It's about saving money and giving better training. Because if we wanted to put, say, our firefighters through hot fire training, we have to do 2 pumps at a time, 2 fire engines at a time, have to be taken off station and go to a training centre for the day. That's 10 firefighters taken off duty. We have to backfill that. We have to put fire engines back at them fire stations with crews on. So we have to bring retained in. So you're bringing 2 fire engines in, 10 firefighters. So that's a cost. And that's to train 10 people in a day. We've got 500 firefighters. So if we can train them on station in virtual reality, we can make hot fire training, which we still need to do, because this will only supplement our training. It won't take over the training, but it will supplement it to the extent where we only have to do hot fire training once every 2 years instead of once every year. The saving will be immense, and that's just in one discipline in the fire service, which is hot fire training. We do fire investigation training, we have hazardous materials, road traffic collisions, different types of fires. We can do it for different types of equipment we have to use. I think virtual reality will take kind of the fire service to the next level for training. We've got the fire service in America watching what we're doing. They're very, very interested. We're looking at 3D modeling of buildings. I go back to the fire explosion in Leicester a couple of weeks ago. We've 3D modeled that scene, and we've sent it to our fire investigation officers, say, look, this is what's possible. One, for training, it's absolutely fantastic. Two, evidential value, it's brilliant and it's preserved. So it is the future. I say over the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll have a national working party put together from the fire service, looking at progressing this kind of nationally. And I don't think it'll be long before the police and the ambulance service come on board with us. So thanks very much for listening. I don't know if there's any questions.
I might have one, because about 3 or 4 years ago, when I first started doing work for organisations in VR, one of the first things that we discussed was how can VR be used to simulate things that you can't learn from a book, basically. And that often involved simulating on-site situations. And the first thing that came to mind was actually the emergency services, and also working with social workers who have to go into a domestic environment where there might be abuse or violence going on. Yep. And a trainee may never have come across a violent situation or a dead body or somebody who'd been injured. So how do you get them primed for that first experience? And I just want to ask you, with regards to that, how have people who've not necessarily had that field experience, when they have these experiences, what have been their responses?
Well, training-wise, there's a university in New Zealand use our road safety film to educate. They train paramedics, and they use our film to train paramedics. One, on what it looks like to attend a road traffic collision where there's serious injuries, so they can go into the virtual world and see what the injuries look like. I won't say get used to it, because you never get used to it. Then they use it for triage and prioritisation of injuries. That's what they're using in New Zealand, how they're using the film. It's funny, that's 2 people asked me that question today about when people join the fire service, about the first time they're going to see a dead body, or a body which has kind of been involved in a serious crash, and it's kind of not very pleasant, because they're perhaps the worst environments we go into. I said, we can acclimatise them in the virtual world using kind of professional makeup artists, and we can start with small injuries and build it up, and then we can monitor them to make sure they're not apprentices, but the probation firefighters are okay, and they're kind of not getting used to, but accepting what they possibly have to see. Because at the scene, your adrenaline kicks in anyway, and your adrenaline, your training kicks in, you deal with it, and perhaps it's the aftermath that we watch more, because people go back to station, and as a watch manager, if I'm in charge of a machine or a station, I'll be monitoring the firefighters to make sure they don't become withdrawn, especially if it's the first time they've seen a dead body or a mutilated body, and we monitor that. And we've got mechanisms where they can go for counselling, that type of thing. It's all private and confidential. When I first joined, people would like frown on that. They say, no, we're big tough firefighters, we don't need that. But actually, some people do, and we accept that, and the service is there for them. So yeah, it's a mechanism for them to train. With the training side of it, hot fire training, we do that. And yes, it is dangerous. We're going into very extreme temperatures. If you don't do it properly, you put too much water on the fire, you will get scalded by steam. That's what happens in hot fire training, and we do get burns in hot fire training. In the virtual world, we can train them and train them and train them. And if it goes wrong, we press a reset button, have a bit of a debrief, we go back and do it again. And we keep doing it that way until we put them in for real. And by that time, they've got a bit of muscle memory, they're experienced in actually going into that type of fire, and we think we'll reduce the number of kind of burns and that we get within the training environment. There's another thing we're doing as well. We've only just got the the go-ahead this week, we're going to be doing blue light driver training in 360. The reason it'd be hazard perception, we could do a 4-day blue light course. 1 day could be done in the classroom now in VR. And the benefits to the fire service and other road users is one, that's 25% reduction in the chance of having an accident on the road because we're 1 day less. It gives us a better kind of carbon footprint because we're greener, because 1 day we're not actually taking the machine out. So we're kind of looking after the environment. And you think we train 2 people on the 4-day course, we train 2 people. We've got 350 drivers, so that's a lot of courses. So there's a lot of savings for us in the driving kind of simulation side of things. Well, I'm going on now, aren't I? With the film, I do keep pushing on what the film we've made. I pushed it at the DFT, and they kind of really appreciate what we've done and my kind of perseverance, because through that we've gone to the driving vehicle standard agency, and they're looking now at using virtual reality 360 as part of the theory test on your driving test. They're looking at trialing at the end of this year, and that's come from the film we've developed out there and just pushing it forward. So I personally think VR is going to kind of change the way we learn beyond recognition.
Just one last point. One of the projects I'm working on at the moment is we are using Microsoft HoloLens to do holographic-based training for astronauts, aircraft engineers, as well as medical personnel. But part of that is not just having something visual, but we're including a garment which actually tracks the person's heart rate, tracks the skin resistance and measures stress, and also looks at a number of other factors and uses a bit of artificial intelligence to see if they can figure out what state of mind the person's in terms of focus and concentration, even accelerometers and other things to assess the person's posture and orientation in terms of movement. With regards to any of the work that you're doing, are you doing any actual physiological monitoring of the person while they're doing this to see what's actually happening for them?
In the training environments, we will be, especially in the breathing apparatus, because what we don't do, and the technology's out there, unfortunately it comes to cost, is that when we go into a fire, we need to kind of monitor the firefighter's temperature. You know, to see if they're getting critical, we need the comms to tell them to get out. They're talking about heads-up display in our BA masks. They're talking about using infrared cameras and screening, so when we go into a smoke-filled building, we've got vision. The training and the kind of technology, it's out there and it's improving kind of weekly. So I'm not a very technology type person, and I cannot believe how quick the technology is changing. It's definitely going to change how we train. It's going to make our training safer. And I say emergency services, we're working with people with dementia. We do what we call, there used to be home fire safety checks. We go into someone's homes and deliver a safety check for them to keep them safe. They're now safe, secure, and well checks. And we're talking to a company, I can't think what they're called at the moment, but they produced a VR film of the coronation. So it's got all the old 60s music, the street parties, and we go into an elderly person, kind of vulnerable, lonely person, and we do a safe, well-being, secure check, and then we offer them the choice to put the headset on, and it takes them back to the coronation, and they see all the songs being played in the street party, and it gives them that really kind of well-being feeling, which, you know, when we leave, that's what we want, because we deal with a lot of vulnerable people, and if we can make them feel better, and it's just a bonus.
Something I'd be interested in is, one of the complaints or wishes I had earlier was that this kind of technology, it would be great if it could be created in the actual end device itself rather than having to go through a computer and a bunch of pieces. And one of the projects we're working on at the moment allows for a Microsoft HoloLens to allow an expert to record an instructional sequence holographically, and then a trainee can put on the headset and go through it themselves. And it can all be done, you know, there in the actual setting. So I just wanted to ask if that's something perhaps you'd be interested in trying out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Obviously, we're open to working with people, because my goal is to make training in the fire service kind of virtual reality. That will spread throughout the blue light services. If we can get into people's homes, then that will make people safer and more secure, make them feel better for themselves. It's all a plus, and I'll work with anybody. You know, anyone who wants to help or can benefit what we're doing, you know, just let me know. If you want the film, let me know and I'll send it to you. Like I said, it's free of charge.
Great. Thanks very much for your time, Paul, and a round of applause for our speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.